gosh. So, first of all, I have no idea how people do this on a daily basis. Talking to yourself or to your phone in your room by yourself is so weird. But today I just kind of wanted to go over some general tips and tricks on how to use Toon Boom if you're trying to do like cartoony style 2D animations, because a lot of times when I would go on YouTube looking up how to use Toon Boom, there are a lot of good tutorials, but typically it's not the style of animation I was trying to do, like kind of like the clean line work, the very like cartoony like 2D TV animation style stuff. So I've been working for Hell of a Boss since January, so it's almost been a full year. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert at Toon Boom yet, but I know enough to hopefully help you if you're just starting out. So first I wanted to go over what's already done. So this is an animation I actually did several months ago, like just like a looping little animation of my character Cinnabon. So it's just like her flapping her wings, and I'm just gonna make her blink her eyes, not to like, teach you the animation of like how to like animate blinking eyes, more so to show you like the tools I use, how I use them, and how you're going to get, just into the swing of Toon Boom. So first I want to go over what I've done already before we get into like making the eyes blink. So I just want to go over the layers that I have here. So what I like to do, especially if you're just doing like a looping animation, is first of all, you should name your layers. I'll be honest, when I'm illustrating in Photoshop or in Clip Studio Paint, I don't name my layers. I probably should, but I don't. But for animation, things are going to start getting really messy really quick just because you have like sub layers, you have pegs. So I try to keep it to like things that are going to be moving. I want to keep it on a separate layer. So for instance, like the wings are moving separately. The body pretty much stays still other than moving up and down, which I don't do on the body layer itself. I add that to a peg, which I'll get into in a second. And the eyes, which aren't moving right now because originally that was just a still part of it, and it was originally just connected to the body layer, but I moved it up because I'm going to be making it blink, so the eyes are on a separate layer. And then up here, so this little like blue squiggly line here is called a peg, and anything that is attached to the peg, like put underneath it in the layer, is going to move however you make the peg move. So all of these here are keyframes. So I just like kind of like put them moving up and down, and then this first keyframe here I copy pasted to the end just to make sure that the place it ends is the same place where it started, just so like it loops perfectly. So that's just what makes it move up and down, and then everything, the eyes, the body, the wings, are all part of that peg. And if I turn off the peg, the animation's still going to happen, but the up and down is going to be gone, so now it's just staying in place. So, just a quick thing to make a new layer. So drawing layer is going to be your standard like layer that you animate on. If you want to make a peg, it's going to be right here. So that would be a new peg. So yeah, it's pretty much layers. Like I have a colored card here, which like, because it's just a simple animation, I just kept and I exported it with it. Just like double tap on that color card and change the background color card to anything. Pretty handy. I guess it's white for now. That works. So yeah, that's about everything I have to say on layers for the time being. So we can start getting into doing the lines for making my character blink. So right now, this is the eye layer right here, and what I like to do when I'm working on a specific layer is if you go over to your keyboard and press the shortcut L, let me get that, press L, it's going to make it so the rest of your layers are like get an opacity, like are put to a lower opacity so you can focus on the layer that you need to work on. That's really like helpful when you have multiple layers going on, like a body layer, a hair layer, a front hair layer, an eye layer, all that stuff. So this means I can focus on that, and I'm probably going to have the blink towards the end because the animation is just like 2 seconds, and I just want to like have it like looping where the blink's at the end, so it's not like excessive blinking. It's just going to be one blink. So I just deleted the frames here, just right click, I cut them. So let's see. So I guess the thing that I did when I first started using Toon Boom is I use the brush tool a lot because I'm used to using the brush tool when I'm like illustrating in most other programs. But I would suggest, just for like ease of like fixing things, of like changing lines around, the pencil tool works differently than the brush tool, like when it comes to editing. So here's a pencil stroke. And then like if you're like, oh wait, but I kind of want that to be a little bit more of an arc, you can just go here to the contour editor, select your line, and then you can just move it up, move it down, around. If you want to have a little bit more control over where you're moving it, you can go to the envelope tool here, and then when you select that, you can like individually like move little things. So like if you have like a sketched rough animation, you're like trying to match it, this will like give you a lot more control over how your line works. And then as opposed to the brush tool here, I'll show you like why this isn't as good for editing. So here's my brush stroke. You go to the same editor tool and you try to edit it, and it just like does that, which I guess like can work in some scenarios if you're going for a certain look, but there's a lot less control that you have over the lines you're making. So yeah, we're gonna stick to the pencil tool. I'm just gonna select the color I use for the line art, brown here. All of my colors are over here in my palette. All right, and so with the pencil tool, you're going to want, if you want to like adjust your settings, you click on this arrow right here, and to have like these kind of like smooth cartoony lines where like everything's looking like nice and curved and smooth, I like to have the maximum size is definitely dependent on like what you're drawing, how close the character is. That's very much like personal preference too, if you want thick lines, if you want thin lines. In terms of the smoothing, I like to have between 25 and 35. That like again gives it that smooth curve. If you go lower than that, your lines might like get a little bit wobbly, which again like can work if you're going for a certain look, but this is kind of where I like to have it. If you go too high, you're gonna have like no control over your lines. For minimum size, I also like to have that between 25 and 30. That just helps with line consistency throughout the animation. Like if you have that too high, you're not gonna get like that tapering effect where like the lines can be thinner at certain points, which looks really nice. If you have it too low, it's gonna be really hard to keep like that like line weight consistent throughout your animation. It's gonna kind of look all jittery throughout. So I think 30, like any from like 25 to 35, you can like play with higher or lower, again depending on your preference, but I typically like to have it around there. And then so we're gonna go into animating the eyes. I'm gonna put the onion skin on, which is gonna be this little thing that looks like a stack of pancakes right here. I don't like it to be that intense, so we're just gonna take that down. You can like mess with like the amount of onion skin you have here, or you can also do that manually here by like dragging it back and forth. So we're just going to make the next eye. We're gonna make it closing. And then I guess while I'm doing this, I'll just talk about, you know, like my experience as an animator, like for Hell of a Boss and stuff like that. I don't actually do the rough animation. I'm hoping to start doing that soon. For now, I've done cleanup animation and in-between animation, so like I get the rough animation and I make sure like everything's like on model. Like I do all of like the line art, the clean line art for it. I like fix things that are on model, like I'll add details and I'll do the coloring and everything. And then I've done in-betweens, which is where you get like the main like key poses of an animation, and then you like do all of the rough animation in between that to make it smooth and nice, and then that goes to the cleanup animators after that. So I've done those, and if I'm being honest, I think I applied to work on Hell of a Boss 4 times before I actually got in, just to encourage you if you've tried and it hasn't happened yet. You know, it still can. Just, you know, put in the practice. I know it can be hard, like, too, if you already have a job, trying to find time to animate, to add stuff to your portfolio so you can get a job, because you still gotta make money. What I did, because I did have a job and I couldn't just, like, spend hours animating when I needed to make money, so I would actually do animated commissions so I could make money and also add to my portfolio. So I'd say, like, have at least enough animation so people can know what you can do, and then start offering animated commissions so you can, get some practice in, add stuff to your portfolio, and, just keep working at it. If you feel like you're really close, keep trying. Let's see, let's get the eyebrows. And so what I like to do, back to Toon Boom stuff, when I have like a colored part that doesn't have an outline, I will usually do it in a bright color, like a bright red or a bright green, because you can delete that all together later on. So we're just gonna do some green lines here. I might actually copy paste this to keep it more consistent. Oh yeah, also don't be afraid to like take shortcuts. If there's anything you can copy paste, I would say do it. Like usually, the only reason I'm not copy pasting the eyes and just like adjusting where this is, like where the eyelashes are, is because I already have it colored in since I worked on it before, so I just decided to redraw it. But again, usually I would copy paste that and just adjust it slightly. Not only does that make it easier for you, but it also helps maintain consistency, which is really important in like keeping your animation from looking like off or looking jittery. So let's see, got the eyes closed, and then again, shortcuts, so you can just copy paste this. If you copy paste just like the image on here, it's going to be like a new frame entirely, but if you copy paste the frame itself and then paste it again, oops, copy paste the frame, that means like whatever you do to this frame here is going to happen to this frame too, because it's essentially the same frame just in a new area. So say if I filled this in red, it's going to be red over here too. So that's like helpful if you have like like the same frame but later on in an animation, instead of like having to color it in twice, you can just copy it over. And then what I like to do when there's a blink, I actually like to add a little bit of a bounce to it when it opens again. So I would just take like the first frame I had, take that, move this up a little, and just kind of make that go up. And then we can just copy the original eye over here so it ends where it started. I just kind of like how the bounce looks, like it adds a little bit. Oh wait, I forgot I need to color that in. But you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where the bounce just adds a little bit of liveliness to the animation. So see, that color carries over. Alright. Now we're going to need the brown, the yellow, I forgot to color in the shine. There we go. Oh, and then also for the bucket tool, right now the U that I have the U that I have on like next to the paint bucket means paint unpainted. So essentially that means that like anything that's already filled in, you can't fill in again. So if I had it set to normal paint and I just like circled all of this to get painted in, it would paint my line art too. But for paint unpainted, it can't affect anything that's already filled in. So if I'm just trying to fill in this little dot right here, I can just circle that as paint unpainted. Except I'd probably set it to the line art color. Circle that and it only paints that. It won't affect anything that's already been filled in. And then like I was talking about earlier, when you use green lines for like something that doesn't have a line art on it, so what you're going to do to get rid of green lines, like say if this was like in like my entire animation, it was like several frames and you didn't want to go through and like select everything individually, you go to your select tool up here, this red line here, which basically means like select all of like one color, and then this little 3 pages with the forward arrow means apply to all layers. So you're going to select these 2 options, press on any green line anywhere on your animation, and then you just delete it, and then it's going to be gone on all your frames. Woohoo! Unselect those so it doesn't affect stuff you do later. So let's see how that looks so far. I'm going to turn my peg back on, and I'm going to turn off the lower opacity by pressing L again, and let's see. Nice. I actually kind of want to speed it up though, so I think I'm going to shorten these. Just to have the blink move a little bit faster. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, see, this is where you just kind of play with it with personal preferences. Sometimes I just end up going back to the original. I actually think I like the slow blink better, but yeah, that's just some general tips and tricks for Toon Boom. Oh, but before I go, I do want to touch on your color palette over here. This is actually one of the most convenient things about Toon Boom, is your color palette is basically just like, it's like saved and it's attached to whatever you're working on. So if you need to change the color of like anything, like if you were looking at this and you're like, oh man, I wish I made her sweater neon green, you can do that and it'll apply to the entire animation. So like, again, like the body is only a single image. So let's do something that moves. So let's do the wings instead. So say if you like were looking at this like light brown part of the wing and you also want it to be neon green, you can select that color and it'll show up in your color palette over here. You would just take that. You can either mess with the color over here or you can go here to have a little bit more control over what you're doing. Just change it to green here, just make it bright neon green. So everything that was that color on this animation is now a nice bright neon green, and that applies to everything. So that's just like a really nice quick way if you want to like, if you either accidentally messed up or you decide you want to change it last minute. That's just a really easy way to do that. That's one of my favorite things about Toon Boom, honestly. Because when I used to work in Adobe Flash, and maybe there was a way to change a single color, but if there was, I didn't know it. So yeah, that's just a few tips and tricks, kind of how I use Toon Boom. If you guys end up having any questions, or if I think of anything else that I want to show you to do in Toon Boom, I can make another video. But for now, thank you for watching, and bye-bye. Good luck animating.